Andy Mitten, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine, thank you. I'm in London. I'm just about to set off to Baku in Azerbaijan. Once the call's finished, I'm spending 2 days to get there, going via Georgia into Tbilisi.
Right.
So I was at Wembley last night, and it was eventful. And I travelled back to my hotel after the game, and it was party town. Lots of people who were not adverse to a couple of drinks, having a good time and hugging each other. So it was interesting to see. My vantage point for the game was right behind the goal, which isn't normal for me. Normally, I would be in the press box if I'm not in the stands, and I was pitch level. And when England scored that first goal, I turned around and filmed it because I'm working for a rights holder, so they're allowed to film it. And the scenes were just like somebody said, well, there were various descriptions, not all of them complimentary, ranging from island monkeys to this is what we've missed. This is like prisoners who've been let out to have a good time. But people of all ages were just going absolutely crazy. And there's a side of England fans that I don't always warm to. The aggression, the songs about the Second World War. And I saw plenty of that yesterday, and I almost felt sorry for some of the German fans walking up Wembley Way because they were mild-mannered. They tended to be people who lived in London, and the England fans were creating this massive atmosphere. And I just thought, what's going to happen if they actually win? Beat Germany for once. And they did that, and the mood just carried on long into the night. I also thought the 45,000 made a huge difference because I've been at the previous games at Wembley when there was 20,000 there, and it was pretty loud. It's so much better with fans. Even if there's only 10,000 fans there, even if there's only 400 fans there, as watched Manchester United in Istanbul, it's better than nothing. It takes away from that sort of sterile atmosphere. But 45,000 was really significant. It looked and felt a lot more.
You obviously are a chronicler of fan culture throughout the decades at this stage, Andy. Where are the England fans at the moment, and what was that atmosphere like before and after, and how did it compare with previous tournaments that you might have covered?
But yeah, it's good that you mentioned fan culture because I'm doing stuff for various TV stations, and one of them's in India. So they've obviously got a huge audience. And I said, you need to be doing more fan culture stuff. And he said, what do you mean? And I sent him the video of the England fans, which I just spoke about. And it's been viewed online by 1.5–2 million people. I said, that's what I mean. I said, this matters to people. Where are England fans? I feel divided. I mean, I'm English, but I've never felt a real strong affinity with the national team. When I was a kid, I did. I really did. And then Manchester United sort of took over, and that was a very uneasy relationship. And I was in Marseille when the Russian hooligans attacked, and I saw a lot of good, decent English fans, and I saw a lot of people who made me cringe. It'd been, in the words of one American I bumped into in Marseille, hey, a lot of you guys have been overserved. That was the most polite description of, drunken debauchery that I heard there. And you do get that little Englander mentality. And if you look at the flags behind the goal, very few of them are from the big football cities like Manchester and Liverpool. They're all from smaller towns. And that's for several reasons. If you support Coventry City, you're not going to be watching your team in Europe all the time like a Man United or a Liverpool or a Man City fan. It'd be very difficult to do both. There are Man United fans and Liverpool fans who follow England, and they created a massive din. When I heard the national anthem, it was very loud. And in terms of numbers, the numbers which England took to South Africa in 2010 were off the scale. Euro 16 off the scale. And I know Wales took a lot. I know the Republic of Ireland are incredibly well supported. I was with Northern Ireland fans in France as well. Huge, huge numbers. Actually, loads of countries. Albania had 40,000 there. Poland, the bigger countries obviously are well supported. And you're not getting that now because of the restrictions. So I was with 2,000 Belgian fans in Seville on Sunday. A couple of thousand France fans in Munich. They're making themselves heard. These are the hardcore, the people who are prepared to jump through all the different travel restrictions and make the sacrifices to see the team. and I'm sure there'll be some England fans in Rome on Friday, but in normal circumstances, England could take 50,000 there. It was a good atmosphere, and I've got to praise the German fans as well, because after the game, I stood speaking to the players, Declan Rice, Raheem Sterling, for my job, and the German fans were right behind me, and they were very sporting. They were even singing "Football's Coming Home," which baffled me completely. I think they were just there for the sense of occasion. But the England fans were very, very loud after those goals went in, because up to that point, I didn't think it was the most exciting game, especially having watched the two games the previous day. But England wore them down, and Jack Grealish, who I just heard you mention, he made a big difference. And I spoke to Declan Rice about him, and he gave me a line which surprised me. He said he's one of the best 5 players I've ever played with, Jack. And I thought, okay, I'm not watching him every week. I know he's good. I've seen him play well in the Premier League, but to hear that from another pro was quite interesting.
See, I'm a Villa fan, so I've been banging on about this for a long time. I think that Grealish could do anything for across the midfield or just behind strikers in the right circumstances. He could, pair him with the right person and give him a specific job to do. At Villa, he's asked to do absolutely everything. Less so this season because they've actually improved, and McGinn's been fit for the whole year. And they have a holding central midfielder as well. So he hasn't had to do everything, but he can do absolutely anything. And that's my excitement as a Villa fan, and also my concern that any of the big clubs should really be piling in and getting loads of money. One of the things just before is a lot of people are like, oh, he hasn't got Champions League experience, and so therefore we don't know what he's going to be like. And what this reminds me of is John Barnes in '86, when he completely transforms the game against Argentina, and was only Watford at that stage. It's afterwards he goes to Liverpool, everybody goes, wow, this guy's really good. It's like, actually, he was already really good.
Yeah, Jack Grealish changed the game. It's as simple as that. I was finishing off my match ratings after 75 minutes because I knew I had to go and interview the players, and England were at 6s and 7s, and so were Germany. And Grealish changed the game. He absolutely did. And you can see he's a very confident lad. I noticed him when he came to Old Trafford the season before last, and he was man of the match. He is versatile. And a reason I think he did stand out in that England team is because they're so cautious. The way Gareth Southgate sets up is so cautious, and he would have been slaughtered for that if England would have lost. But they're not conceding goals. They're not scoring many goals either. So I think it was very important for Harry Kane that he scored, because he was having a nothing game. But Grealish was the game changer. He was on, 22 minutes, and he was a key player. And even before he'd kicked a ball, the ovation he got from that Wembley crowd was massive. It was the biggest roar of the game. Since the start of the game, when there was a national anthem, it was up until the point when Grealish came on that it really kicked off. And that roar was vindicated because he changed the game. So I suspect he will start. I'd like to see him start as an Englishman. But even if he doesn't start, the option of bringing him on, I don't think he normally plays naturally on the right. And I think Saka, he had a good first 10 minutes, probably better than any of the other players. But he faded. He's a young kid. He's inexperienced and needs talking through the match. But I think Grealish is the real deal. And if you're a Villa fan, what I'd say is Villa have got a really good manager in Dean Smith. I came across Dean Smith 10 years ago when he gave a chance to a friend of mine who was a professional footballer whose child had died at age 2 and was looking for a contract, and nobody would go near him because mentally they felt that he had too much on his plate. And Dean Smith gave him a chance, put him as his centre half, made him the main man, had him as an assistant working with him, and that lad went on to manage Bristol City. So I came across Dean Smith then when he was at Warsaw, and he struck me as someone who was extremely personable. He was doing a very good job at Warsaw, but on a human scale, what he did to a friend of mine, I will never forget that. And he actually made the right decision as well. So I followed his career quite closely then when he went to Brentford and then at Villa. And I love it that he's managing the team he supports. I think that it's great in football. And I'd almost say the same for Jack Grealish. Stay where you loved. And I know you're going to be tempted by more money and Champions League football and all that. But I love that Athletic Bilbao syndrome, if you like, where players just stay. And there's lots of examples of it. And I think history remembers them very well. I don't think Alan Shearer ever regretted going back to Newcastle rather than Manchester United. Obviously, his trophy cabinet remained empty, but I think all these years later, he feels that he made the right decision.
How important has the return of Harry Maguire been for this England team?
I think it's been significant. I don't think Tyrone Mings had a bad game against Croatia, and again, I was stood right behind the goal. It was interesting watching Kieran Trippier talk Mings through, but somebody who knows far more than I do in top-level football said to me, as England go further through, when they come up against the likes of France, people like Pogba will just be hitting balls behind Mings for fun. And I remember that comment, and I'm repeating that comment. That's now not going to happen because France are out. But Maguire has played many big games for Manchester United. He won one of the man of the match awards yesterday. He's an important player. I think at United, people realised how important he was when he wasn't there. After he picked up that injury at Villa Park, and then he missed the Europa League final. You know, more members of Harry Maguire's family went to Gdansk for that final, even though he wasn't playing, because they wanted to see him lift the Europa League. And some of the players didn't take up any of their allocation to go to the game. And Maguire's a real deal. And I think I heard more songs yesterday about Harry Maguire than any other England player. And that shows that he's loved by England fans probably more than he is by United fans. United fans rate him a lot, but they're comparing him to Vidic's and Fernandes, and there are worries when he plays alongside Victor Lindelof, more so with Lindelof than Harry Maguire. But of the players United have looked at to maybe replace Lindelof, they've seen that, they too make mistakes. The grass isn't always greener, and Victor Lindelof had a bad night. Varane is a top player, but he hasn't been wholly inconsistent. Pau Torres looked pretty ropey to my eye, sat in the stands in Seville on Sunday, but I know he's a very good player. So it remains to be seen what will happen there. But Maguire's a real deal.
You stick with the three at the back now for the next game, obviously, Andy, I assume. And then when it comes to the other changes, are you starting Jack Grealish then ahead of Saka the next day in the exact same formation?
Yeah, I would. I know that some of the England players were missing out. Clearly, they're not happy. And if you're called up for 30 days or whatever it is and you're not playing, you're not happy. End of. You cannot pretend otherwise. So Southgate's not making many changes. A couple have been enforced on him with Mount and Chilwell. But I think caution comes first with him. And people might say England have got these great young attacking players. Why aren't you even using Jadon Sancho, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, when Harry Kane's not been playing well? But then Harry Kane, he got his first goal. He's obviously been a hugely important figure for England, and he may come good. I just think Jack Grealish is too good, having seen what I saw last night, not to start. And I worry whether that caution will be England's undoing, because Germany started very well against England. It was Germany who looked the more confident team. And right throughout that game, I was thinking, Germany are going to win this. This is what happens. Germany just beat England. And it was all set up for that fall. So it's to the absolute credit that people like Grealish made sure that didn't happen. But I think what you'll see now is a groundswell for Grealish to be starting. As I said, that roar last night was so loud when he came on. And England were pretty boring until the goals. They kept the clean sheet again. Jordan Pickford was good. I was pretty impressed by John Stones. He was even more vocal than Maguire. Trippier as well. I think Phillips and Rice are doing the job that are going to keep them both in the team. Phillips has been a real eye-opener, especially in that first game against Croatia. And you look at England's record now, it starts to stack up, and you think, look at all the teams who've gone out of the competition. Now, I've watched Belgium twice in person. I still think Belgium would beat England. But you have this crazy Englishness with the game being at Wembley there's going to be even more fans if England were to get through against Ukraine. And I think Ukraine are good as well. We've seen that. You saw them come back against Holland in one of the earlier games and thought, wow, there's real talent here. And I'll be passing through Ukraine on my way back from Baku. So I hope I don't get held there because of my nationality after go wrong in Rome. So interesting. I'm enjoying it. Now I'm enjoying it as a journalist. I'm very lucky to be doing what I'm doing. Some of my mates are like, can't get into this. Others are like, this is brilliant. So I don't know how the general population is seeing it, but in person at games, there's a huge amount of enthusiasm there.
You said you've seen the Belgians in person twice. They were at the Belgium-Portugal game. What was the story with Bruno Fernandes' tournament? Is it pure exhaustion? Is it a manager not quite knowing how to use his talents? Is it a mix of these?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of those, and slightly baffling. Baffling in the way that Pogba's better for France than he often is for Manchester United. More confidence, more trusted. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's trust in Bruno Fernandes is absolute. And yet, when he plays for the national team, the national team manager was getting criticised for not using him. I think there was some overlap in the positions that Cristiano Ronaldo plays, and Cristiano Ronaldo remains the top dog. But look at the number of games that Bruno Fernandes played last season as well, and remained hugely talismanic and important for Manchester United. And Solskjaer used him because he needed him. And there were games in the League Cup when I saw the reaction from Man United fans. Why is he playing? And well, he's playing because Solskjaer wants and needs a trophy. And he needs a League Cup. That's why he's coming on at Luton to change the game, or at Everton he's starting. And United won those matches. But I think Fernandes is a very, very good player, but he's had a disappointing tournament. And that can happen. It's happened to Mbappe. International football can be a weird beast. And Portugal had the unfortunate luck to be drawn in that group, and then to come out of that group and play against Belgium. And it was a very tight game. Portugal were the best team in the first half, I thought, in Seville, in difficult conditions. It was really hot. And there was that wonder goal then from Hazard's brother. And that changed everything. And Belgium just sat back and defended. But tight margins in top-level club football and top-level international football. And England just got the better of him, which is why everyone in London's smiling.
Who do England want to see in the final then, Andy?
I think England reaching a final would be a huge achievement. I flew out to Russia a couple of years ago for that Croatia semi-final. Yeah, okay, England are going to the World Cup final, and unfancied Croatia beat them. And we're a better team as well. So I'm not entirely convinced by this England team yet. I thought that France and Belgium were better than England. England cannot meet France, obviously. England are in the more favourable side of the draw by virtue of finishing top of the group and other things falling in for them. I'd say that Belgium are the favourites to win the competition, but England have first got to be... It would be so England to go out against in Rome on penalties against Ukraine. But I think semi-final and a final. But I think England this morning are in the strongest position that they've been in. And looking at some of those players in the eyes after the game, I thought Declan Rice spoke very well when I spoke to him. Raheem Sterling was a bit more predictable. But Rice impressed me. And there's a confidence there. The problem Southgate has got is he's got to manage a squad which is twice as big as the number of players that he's got. And players who are not being selected are not in the best frame of mind. And that's natural. And that's a problem for the manager.
It is a problem, but at least if you're going to be telling your agent stuff that you want to get into the papers about how things aren't going well, you're going to get shouted down by the general public at the moment, because the crowd and the spirit and the atmosphere is it's coming home. So
totally.
there's power for him there. What's your assessment of why Southgate... I was going to say it's different, but he's not different just yet, because he hasn't actually achieved anything that other managers haven't achieved, except beating Germany for the first time in a knockout game, and also since '66, and also winning a knockout game in 90 minutes in the European Championship. So he has definitely got things on the right track. What is it that he's got?
I think he's fundamentally a decent person, and I think you can see that. Obviously, he's got the football knowledge. He's a safe pair of hands. He came through after a setback in club football, working with the 21s. Obviously, you need to get results when you manage England, and he's been getting them. The World Cup was good. You're absolutely right about the groundswell of opinion. People sing Gareth Southgate's name probably more than any player I've heard, apart from Harry Maguire. There's a lot of love there for him. You sense that if England would have lost to Germany, there would have been a huge amount of criticism for him for being too cautious. But they didn't, they won. And I saw him speaking after the game and putting football in the context of the wider world, saying, we've had a very difficult year or two. It's nice to bring joy to people. He doesn't forget that. He doesn't forget the fundamentals of. He kept talking about the fans as well, and you could say that's colour by numbers stuff, but I sense it's real with him. I think he looks the part. I think that tactically, he's cautious. Of course he is, but maybe he feels that he needs to be because there are better international teams out there. Maybe he just wants to build this absolute solid base. To beat Croatia in that first game was a great result. Didn't feel it on the day, but beating Croatia, a very good Croatia team, who didn't look very good because England didn't let them play very well. That was significant. So, yeah, people are having Southgate. They are. If they go out now in the quarterfinals, it'll be like, okay, quarterfinals, it'll change again.
Against Ukraine. Let's wait and see what happens. One last thing. That game was supposed to be in Dublin. It was supposed to be Germany against England in Dublin. So I don't know what gift the country of England could give the country of Ireland. Nothing springs to mind immediately. Nothing obvious that you guys could give us, you know, just to make peace between the nations and to say thanks very much. Yeah. So if you want to think about that one for a while and you know, ask the general populace.
I was supposed to be going to Dublin. I'd booked my flights to Dublin. I booked to stay in an area quite close to Lansdowne Road, and a friend of mine said, oh, the place you're staying is full of rugby fans, not football fans. I thought, okay, well, I've never heard that before because I've been to Dublin several times. And it's a great shame that Dublin and Bilbao missed out. I love both cities. I've been to both cities many times. I was really looking forward to it. And instead of going to Dublin, I'm now going to sit on a plane for the whole of today to a country that is not even my destination. And then tomorrow I'm going to go onwards towards Baku. So there you go. I can't complain. I'm being paid for this. But Bilbao and Dublin were absolutely places I wanted to go to. And I saw, and I know there'll be Republic of Ireland fans who have no great feeling for England and vice versa. But England are bringing joy to the English at the moment, and that brings joy to most of the people in England, but not all. In Manchester, I know people who couldn't care less about the national team, but it's got people finally like my mum. My mum doesn't go to games, and she's like, I've bought my flags, we're going to do it. I'm like, where's this come from? You never even mentioned the England national team to me when I was growing up. So I think it's called